Good evening, America. I'm Angie Russ, and this is N3 Prime Time. Tonight, Gary Franchi's got stories that will grip you. An alarming breach jeopardizing grand jurors in Georgia's link to Trump's indictment. A sudden White House departure stirring up D.C. State Senator Colton Moore's urgent call in Georgia, questioning District Attorney Willis's actions. Leaked documents revealing DeSantis' high-stakes debate strategy, and the haunting murder mystery of a Microsoft exec that's sending shockwaves nationwide. But that's not all. Later, we dive into the Prime Tweets segment, where your voice takes center stage. And don't miss Looking at You, spotlighting someone who's making waves and deserves your attention. Hold on to your seats, folks. Over to you, Gary, for these riveting stories.
Good evening, America. Our stories tonight aren't just tales from various corners of our nation. They're reflections of who we are and where we're headed. Whether it's an indictment in Georgia, political shifts in D.C., or an unsettling murder mystery in Jacksonville, these narratives touch the heart of our republic, our justice system, and our shared values. Imagine our nation as a house built on a foundation of trust, understanding, and shared principles. But like any foundation, over time, erosion can set in, compromising the structure. And since the 1970s, our financial foundation, the U.S. dollar, has seen an erosion of 85% of its value. Elections and potential government decisions ahead might accelerate this decline. But there's a bedrock that remains stable amidst shifting sands: gold, a refuge against inflation, a bastion against economic instability. So secure your financial foundation with Noble Gold Investments, a sponsor of this program. And right now, for a limited time, receive a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com or dial 877-646-5347. And even if you're not investing, just call them and tell them thank you for sponsoring this show. Now, as we mine for the truth in tonight's stories, Angie, which ones will you be spotlighting for our audience?
Tonight, I'm diving into stories that are shaking the nation's core. The border crisis reaches a fever pitch, with numbers hitting an unprecedented high. But how is this affecting everyday citizens far from the border? Cyber espionage threats with a powerful nation targeting one of our own representatives, exposing a vulnerability we all might share. Controversial indictments pile up for former President Donald Trump. Are they a legitimate concern or politically motivated? And Florida Rep. Gates has his crosshairs set on a U.S. district judge. But why? Plus a shocking move in Goodhue, Minnesota, where an entire police force steps down. Why and what does it mean for these residents? These stories matter because they shape our nation's narrative, our security, and our republic. Gary, take it away with your first special report.
Tonight, we're diving deep into an alarming development from Georgia. After the indictment of former President Donald Trump, the very foundation of our legal system is under threat. Confidential details, names, addresses of the jurors, the grand jurors, have shockingly surfaced on what NBC News calls fringe websites, dragging these ordinary citizens into the political crossfire. The act of exposing jury members entrusted to uphold justice in our country has not only ignited fear among them, but is also causing a nationwide uproar over the safety of our democratic processes. So stay with us for a detailed analysis of this worrisome event, and don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss our final thoughts on why this deeply affects every American. Now, the realm of politics has long been contentious, but these actions have crossed a line. Congressman Ted Lieu was quick to point the finger at Trump supporters on Twitter, and NBC News refrained from mentioning the site's name where the leak occurred, as they claimed to desire to curb the spread of such information. Watch.
Garrett, we're also learning some Trump supporters posted the names and addresses of the Georgia grand jurors online. One post even said, quote, "These jurors have signed their death warrant by falsely indicting President Trump," end quote. What more do we know about how this happened and what's being done to protect these jurors?
Yeah, Anna, it's disturbing, and this is due to a quirk in the Georgia law that when these indictments are filed, the names of the grand jurors are made public. They're available on the documents that could be accessed by anybody, just the same way reporters access them. And in this case, the names, and in some cases associated addresses, have started to pop up on some pro-Trump forums and websites. Some good government groups have flagged this. But right now, the sheriff's office isn't commenting on this. It's not clear what steps, if any, are being taken to protect these grand jurors and sort of how serious any of these threats are at this moment. But it just speaks to the broader environment here where you have judges, attorneys, prosecutors, and now grand jurors getting caught up in personal attacks for their roles in the justice system's efforts to investigate the former president.
Now, I should point out the implications of this breach are gravely serious. The decision to indict a former president is without doubt monumental. But it's essential to remember that grand jurors are citizens much like you and I, entrusted with an impartial duty. They shouldn't fear for their safety for merely doing their job. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office has taken a neutral stance, choosing not to comment, but it's evident that this incident has shaken the core of the legal system. District Attorney Fani Willis wasn't immune to such threats either. She received threats prior to the indictment's return, prompting additional security measures. The workplace transitioned, with some employees even getting the option to work remotely. So who detected this privacy breach? Advance Democracy, a nonpartisan research group led by Daniel J. Jones, spotted the grand juror's details. He's a former FBI investigator, and he stated that, quote, "It's becoming all too commonplace to see everyday citizens performing necessary functions for our democracy being targeted with violent threats by Trump-supporting extremists," end quote. He also highlighted a worrying concern, the seeming reluctance of political leadership to denounce such threats, which could potentially encourage real-world violence. And the backlash doesn't stop there. Some internet users, convinced of their sleuthing, have even shared names and pictures of individuals they believe were part of the grand jury, and their evidence alleged social media support for Bernie Sanders and Raphael Warnock, former President Barack Obama, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, it's pertinent to mention that while the indictment lists names of jury members, it omits their addresses or other personal details, stressing the disturbing lengths which some individuals went to obtain and spread this information. Now, the event raises several concerns. Foremost, why are the details of grand jurors so readily available in Georgia? Well, Georgia's unique stance, making the names of grand jurors public, sharply contrasts with the federal court system and most state systems. This transparency has its roots in granting defense lawyers insight into the jury selection process, ensuring jurors meet legal qualifications. But it has unfortunately paved the way for undue harassment, especially in high-profile cases. Threats and intimidation aren't new in the aftermath of actions against Mr. Trump. Previously, a Texas woman faced charges for threatening a judge overseeing a federal election interference case against the former president. The current threat magnitude is even greater. Some posts read by NBC News chillingly stated these jurors have signed their death warrant by falsely indicting President Trump. And Media Matters, a liberal nonprofit monitoring conservative media, branded the shared list of names and addresses as a hit list. With information disseminating on apps like Telegram, it's not just about revealing identities, but also making claims about the jurors' race, religious backgrounds, or political affiliations. So where does this leave us? What does this breach imply about our justice system's integrity? Well, as we conclude tonight's segment, it's crucial to emphasize the magnitude of what's transpired. The very backbone of our justice system is built on the belief that every individual, no matter their role, can operate without fear or retribution or violence. Grand jurors embody the spirit of civic duty, ensuring justice is meted out impartially. Exposing them to threats is not just an attack on these individuals, but an assault on the foundational principles that underpin our republic. These incidents remind us that our republic, while resilient, is not impervious to harm. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that the wheels of justice can turn unhindered. And such threats should serve as a call to action for unity, reinforcing the necessity to shield our democratic processes. Because when the integrity of our justice system is compromised, it affects all Americans, and the very essence of our republic is at stake. Now, the U.S. immigration system is facing an unprecedented challenge, with deportation notices piling up. It begs the question, how is the nation navigating this flood of cases? Angie, shed some light on this situation for us.
The border crisis intensifies as the Biden administration oversees over 150,000 new deportation hearings in July. This indicates an average influx of 4,800 migrants daily, thrice the administration's projected intake. The year 2023 has already surpassed the previous year's migrant record with over 820,000 entries. Additionally, since 2022, about 530,000 migrants have entered without detection. This escalating issue has expanded beyond the border, compelling states like Massachusetts to request citizens to offer shelter. New York City grapples with 55,000 migrants' expenses, plans to accommodate 2,000 in a temporary settlement. Amidst these challenges, concerns arise from alleged crimes involving migrants in upstate New York. The urgency for the Biden administration to address the situation is paramount. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. Major tremors in the corridors of the White House tonight, with their top lawyer on the way out and the GOP pressing hard with inquiries. What's really unfolding behind closed doors? Gary, break it down for us.
As the political climate in Washington intensifies, so do the investigations. With House Republicans delving deeper into President Biden's dealings and those of his family, the timing of Stuart Delry's exit is making waves. As the top legal advisor to the president, his involvement in major legislative pieces has been indisputable. However, with the crescendo of GOP investigations and the shadow of controversies like the student loan executive order, one can't help but wonder if this departure is just routine or a move with deeper implications. As we dive into this special report, you don't want to miss the final thought that brings home the gravity of this unfolding narrative. Now, Stuart Delry's journey with the Biden administration began back in November of 2020, transitioning from being part of Biden's initial team to his eventual role as White House chief legal eagle. His rise to the top position in 2022 after Dana Remus's exit solidified his role as not just a legal advisor, but as a trusted confidant to President Biden. The president himself described him as a trusted advisor and a constant source of innovative legal thinking since day one of my administration. That's what he said in Delry's contributions during the early COVID days and his role in spearheading different medical distributions. And beyond this, Delry was instrumental in implementing legislative accomplishments such as the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the Inflation Reduction Act. However, the White House is more than its supposed successes. It's about facing challenges head-on and navigating through political landmines. Delry's tenure, while marked with accomplishments, has also seen its fair share of controversy, and it's against this backdrop that his exit takes on a different hue. First, here's what Miranda Kahn and Dr. Gina Loudon from Real America's Voice thought of the exit. Watch.
Joe Biden's top White House lawyer just turned in his resignation. His name is Stuart Delry, and he must have been feeling the heat as the investigators get closer and closer to the resident of the White House, because that's the only reason people do things like that.
Yeah, I would say so. And that is on the heels, of course, of Hunter Biden's attorney, who just dropped him as a client. So there's that. High-profile attorney Christopher Clark is dropping representation of Hunter Biden, and he gave some dumb excuse that really didn't make any sense, let's be honest. But it looks like attorneys are getting a little cold feet when it comes to actually being associated with the Biden crime family.
Okay. So here's the deal.
Let's hear it.
Attorneys make money a lot like political consultants, whether or not you win or lose the case, right? I mean, sometimes they make more money. They'll have a contingent arrangement where if the client wins, then they get a piece of that. But they get paid either way. Usually it's hourly. These kinds of high-profile cases like these, they're going to get more name ID, more clientele, more high-profile clientele.
True.
My point here, attorneys don't quit. They don't quit on people like the Bidens unless, and not only that, they might end up dead, because you just never know, because people around these people in this crime ring just end up missing and things. So you just, for them to quit, it has to be something far more insidious and nefarious than just they got busy and they wanted to be home with family more, which it seems like.
So what are you alluding to?
So I'm saying that I think that they probably feel like the heat might come down so hard on the Bidens. You know how they've gone after the Trump lawyers.
Right.
Well, turnabout is going to end up being fair play. Guess what? And these attorneys might be seeing that road and deciding they don't want to go down it.
My thoughts exactly. Now, as the ladies mentioned, Dellary's transition comes as House Republicans double down on their investigations. These aren't just limited probes. They include inquiries into Biden's son Hunter and the origins of the pandemic. Some GOP members are even advocating for Biden's impeachment, a move that at the moment lacks broad support but underscores the current contentious environment. Adding to the tension, Attorney General Merrick Garland, well, he's appointed a special counsel to look into classified documents found in Biden's possession, an issue that's being handled separately by Biden's personal lawyer, Bob Bauer. Now, before we dive deeper, consider this, that the U.S. dollar's lost a significant amount of its value over the decades, much like how trust can erode in a political realm. And just as the government prints money, potentially affecting its worth and leading to inflation, political moves can similarly dilute trust. In uncertain times, people often turn to stable assets like gold, so investing in gold with Noble Gold Investments offers security against such uncertainties. And just as Dellary's departure raises questions in the political arena, one must also secure their financial future. So don't miss out on a free, where is my coin? There it is. A free 24-karat quarter-ounce gold standard coin with your investment. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com or dial 877-646-5347. Even if you're not investing, just give them a call and say thanks. The number's down on the screen. They are the only gold company that I personally trust. So now the departure, it also coincides with a directive from White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients. He asked senior officials to decide their standing as we approach the 2024 election cycle. Interestingly, an unidentified White House official mentioned to the Associated Press that Dellary's departure had been in the planning stages for some time. This leads us to ponder whether this is a routine exit or a sign of broader shifts within the administration. In Dellary's influence, it can't be denied. He was a pivotal advisor aiding the Biden administration in drafting the student loan executive order, which was later struck down by the Supreme Court. Yeah, it's a big L for you, buddy. The administration argued that the pandemic justified waiving or modifying regulatory provisions like student loan debt. The Supreme Court thought otherwise, ruling in a 6-3 decision that the move overstepped constitutional boundaries. Moreover, Dellary's touch is evident in more than just controversial proposals. As deputy counsel, he played a pivotal role in advising on significant legislative pieces like Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan and the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. His hand is also evident in the new U.S.-Mexico border rules designed to deter illegal crossings. And we know how that's going. So as we wrap up this special report, let's reflect on why the stories matter to the American people. In the ever-shifting landscape of Washington, D.C., it's essential to understand the dynamics behind significant departures like that of Stuart Dellary. While serving at the forefront of many legislative failures, the backdrop of increasing GOP investigations and the legal challenges faced by the administration cannot be ignored. Whether Dellary's exit is a sign of internal reshuffling, an attempt to present a cleaner slate, or merely a natural course of politics, well, we must stay vigilant. It's our duty as informed citizens to keep a keen eye on these developments, understanding the ripple effects they may have on our nation's future. America deserves transparency, clarity, and leadership that stands firm amidst challenges. It's a brave new world of cyber warfare, and it seems our elected officials are not immune. A U.S. representative targeted by a sophisticated Chinese cyber attack. Angie, what can you tell us about this breach?
Nebraska Republican Representative Don Bacon alerted the public that the FBI informed him of a breach in his email by the Chinese Communist Party. The hacking, which spanned from May 15th to June 16th, exploited a vulnerability in Microsoft software. These cyber espionage activities, not new from China, highlight growing concerns. Earlier in July, federal agency communication systems were also compromised, with high-ranking officials, including the U.S. ambassador to China, affected. While the White House has prioritized enhancing cybersecurity against nations like China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran, the emphasis remains on collective vigilance. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. The political heat is rising in Georgia. A state senator is making bold moves demanding the impeachment of District Attorney Fani Willis. Gary, what's sparking this fiery response?
Turning our attention now to former President Donald Trump's latest legal woes, I've got some good news to report. Georgia State Senator Colton Moore is taking a monumental stand. Just when you thought the aftershocks of the 2020 election had subsided, they are back and fiercer than ever. More calls for an urgent review, even impeachment of Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, the very official who indicted former President Trump and 18 of his allies. Why? For simply contesting the 2020 presidential election in the Peach State. As we dive into this tonight, you'll see how the deep-rooted political divides continue to shape the very foundations of our republic. Stay with us until the end, because what we're about to unravel may change how you view justice in America. You don't want to miss the final thought. In what can only be described as a political earthquake, Georgia State Senator Colton Moore, representing the people of Trenton, announced his fervent plea for an emergency session. Moore is taking a bold stand, questioning the very fabric of our justice system. He says America is under attack, implying that political motivations may be more powerful than blind justice. And this isn't just talk. Moore's words come attached to a letter addressed to Georgia's GOP Governor Brian Kemp and also the GOP Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. It's worth noting that both Kemp and Raffensperger broke ranks with Trump in December of 2020, refusing to call a special session of the Georgia State Legislature to debate alleged election fraud and other potential actions surrounding Trump's election challenge. Watch.
Hello, this is Colton Moore from Northwest Georgia, State Senator. I've officially called for an emergency legislative session to investigate corrupt District Attorney Fani Willis. I'm sick and tired of these weak, so-called leaders telling us to sit down and be quiet. We have to take action. I need patriots like you to help me. We got a country to save.
We certainly do. Now, Moore's urgent plea states that, in our opinion, an emergency exists in the affairs of the state, requiring a special session to be convened to include, without limitation, the review and response to the actions of Fani Willis. Now, let's pause for a moment. Speaking of reviews, remember our earlier discussion on the escalating health crisis in the U.S.? Well, it seems like every day we're talking about the alarming U.S. health statistics. A staggering 73.6% of adults are overweight, with 40% being obese. But just as Senator Moore is standing against perceived injustice, there is a solution for those battling weight issues. A supplement rooted in Mother Earth's bounty, and its key ingredient, CLA, can aid in reducing fat storage while amplifying fat breakdown. It acts like a watchful guardian, preventing fat accumulation and promoting fat burning. So give yourself the tools to fight back, and for a limited time, for a 51% discount is awaiting you, along with some other generous bonuses. So get started at trimwithgary.com. Now, returning to Moore's proposition, the implications are vast. If his call gains traction, it could defund Willis's ongoing investigation or even result in her impeachment by the Georgia State Legislature. Moore is making it clear he's not content to stand by and watch as, in his words, quote, radical left prosecutors politically target political opponents. Watch.
Moore, Colton, welcome to the program. Tell us about it.
I have a job to do as a senator, Charlie, and part of that job in the legislature is providing oversight. The Constitution gives us some tools to do that. First of which is the power of the purse, right? We control the money. And my constituents, Georgians, outside of the city of Atlanta, don't feel that their tax dollars ought to be used for this type of purpose. You know, we've also got the power to investigate any judicial or executive official. And we ought to be doing an investigation on Fani Willis. And if that investigation turns out that she's corrupt, like many of us suspect, it's time for impeachment. Republicans in the state of Georgia are asleep at the wheel. Okay? Everything is talk, talk, talk. I talked to my...
Sounds like the GOP's standard operating procedure. But at least he's fighting, right? Now, his sentiments resonate with many who believe that the political retribution has replaced actual justice. The fact that Trump faces a maximum of 76.5 years in state prison based on the indictments adds gravitas to this debate. And furthermore, Moore isn't just voicing his concerns in legislative chambers. He's taking his fight to the people, circulating a petition to investigate the office of the corrupt District Attorney Fani Willis. In a statement to Breitbart, he explicitly states, quote, "We must strip all funding and, if appropriate, impeach Fani Willis." The initiative of this Republican senator is backed by evidence. A memo, exclusively obtained by Breitbart News, shows Moore taking the first step towards impeaching Fulton County District Attorney for her actions against Trump. With this memo, he highlights a crucial detail that America needs to understand: the power for an emergency legislative special session in Georgia. It can be realized in two distinct ways. The governor can announce it, or interestingly enough, it can be summoned if 3/5 of both legislative chambers unite, demanding a review of this specific case. Now, in this case, Willis's actions. Moore's letter to Kemp, which is now public knowledge, shows the latter tactic at play. But why is this so pressing? Cliff Maloney, who oversees the America First Georgia campaign, stated unequivocally that Moore's effort to push back against Willis represents Georgia's singular strategy to counter Trump's prosecution. And Maloney doesn't mince words. To him, this is a stand against an epidemic of corrupt district attorneys that are drunk on power. And he believes Colton Moore is fighting the good fight, asserting that Moore's triumph is paramount for every freedom-loving American. And adding to this, the charges against Trump are undeniably serious. The 98-page indictment seems to have been hastily processed based on Trump's statement. He comments that the one-sided grand jury presentation was biased, influenced by witnesses with vested personal and political interests. Some, as he points out, have even capitalized on their opposition to him securing book deals and job opportunities as a testament to their resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's revelations are more than just sparring or legal maneuvers. It's a reflection of the tumultuous times we live in, where politics, justice, and personal ambitions are intricately intertwined. Georgia, a pivotal state in the 2020 election, remains a battleground where the essence of democracy is being fiercely debated. As Senator Moore makes his stand, his fight transcends individual parties or leaders. It's about the sanctity of our institutions, the integrity of our justice system, and the spirit of fair play that underpins our great nation. Whatever side you're on, the takeaway is clear. As citizens, we must stay informed, engage in constructive discourse, and remember that in the end, it is the principles of our republic, justice and fairness, that truly matter. This, my dear viewers, is the heartbeat of America. Good night. Now, amid a flurry of Trump indictments, a GOP senator is stepping forward with a dire warning for all Americans. Angie, what's this senator's urgent message to the public?
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy has voiced concerns over the recent indictments of former President Donald Trump, totaling 4 in just 5 months. Kennedy likens the situation to an impending crisis and emphasizes the broader implications for the nation's political system. Critics argue that this is an example of prosecutors potentially leveraging their power based on political biases. They maintain that these actions against a former president set a concerning precedent for ordinary citizens. Supporters continue to rally behind Trump, viewing this as a challenge not just to his political stature, but also to the country's democratic values. They urge for unity and to uphold America's reputation as a beacon of our republic. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. As the Republican debate nears, a leaked strategy reveals Governor DeSantis' bold moves on the debate floor. Gary, just how explosive is this playbook?
The battleground is being prepared, and the lines are being drawn. In one corner, Governor Ron DeSantis, backed by strategy and raw ambition. In the other, a rising political newcomer, Vivek Ramaswamy. As we draw closer to the high-stakes Republican presidential debate on Wednesday in Milwaukee, newly leaked documents revealed the battle strategy of DeSantis' camp. Tonight we dive into this intriguing play-by-play that paints a roadmap for DeSantis. Does he side with Trump? Will he unleash a torrent against Vivek? What does this mean for the Republican Party? Stay with us. You don't want to miss the final thought on why this game plan matters for America. Now, the political atmosphere is rife with tension, and as we all know, debates can make or break a candidate. DeSantis, no stranger to the pressure of the political arena, finds himself facing a new challenge, navigating the waters of a Republican Party in flux and taking on a surprising contender, Vivek Ramaswamy. Documents recently posted by Axiom Strategies, closely linked with the DeSantis-supporting super PAC Never Back Down, give us a rare insight into the thinking of the DeSantis operation. These papers suggest a four-pronged approach for DeSantis, encouraging him to audaciously challenge Joe Biden in the media, state his positive vision for America, target Vivek Ramaswamy head-on, and stand by Donald Trump, especially against any critique from Chris Christie. Now, the veil of the inner workings of the DeSantis campaign, when it lifts, it reveals a series of calculated moves to be played on the debate stage. Notably absent, however, is a detailed plan for addressing Donald Trump. Why? Perhaps because Trump, while a potent force in Republican politics, won't be physically present to spar with at the debate. But now, for a pause from politics and a touch of comfort, imagine you're Ron DeSantis with a pressing debate approaching. What you need is a good night's rest to ensure you're sharp and focused. The weight of the nation is on your shoulders. And just as he finds solace in fighting and campaigning, we believe in your right to comfort and the best sleep. With My Pillow, drifting off becomes an effortless task. Supported by the Giza Dream Sheets and the mattress topper, you will feel like you're floating in the clouds. So do your sleep a favor. And don't forget to use promo code NNN for an astonishing 66% off at sleepwithgary.com. Dive back into comfort, and let's dive back into the news. Returning to the leaked documents, they highlight key strategies to help DeSantis capture attention away from Trump's looming presence. Drawing upon Roger Ailes' orchestra pit theory, the advice illustrates how a carefully crafted incident or response can generate more press coverage than traditional policy declaration. One such proposed orchestra pit moment involves DeSantis landing a heavy blow on Ramaswamy, possibly using a catchy label like fake Vivek to leave a lasting impression. Now, the strategy makes more sense when you consider that internal polls depict a surging Ramaswamy in New Hampshire, rising from a mere 1% in April to 11% in August. He seems to be catching some momentum at the perfect time, potentially a real threat to DeSantis' campaign. There's also advice on how DeSantis should interact with Trump's legacy. Described as a breath of fresh air, Trump's perceived inability to progress due to his legal troubles is portrayed as an opening for DeSantis. He's hinted to position himself as the right person to carry on Trump's legacy while preserving a less confrontational and more focused front. This is the inspiration video linked at the bottom of the memo for DeSantis to study. Let's watch.
I'm not really a fan of what's going on right now. I mean, the Democrats are just unbelievable.
It's a mess. It's a hot mess.
I love Donald Trump. I love what he did. Once he got in, I thought it was a breath of fresh air. He was attacked all the time, and it seemed like, it just seemed nonstop. The drama, it affected my family. I mean, with my own sister, I didn't get invited to her Thanksgiving after a while. He's got so many distractions. The constant fighting, something every day. And I'm not sure he can focus on moving the country forward. The election is really important because we're going in the wrong direction. I mean, we definitely need somebody that can freaking win. I think you'd probably lose that bet if you voted for Trump. You want somebody that's smart, who actually knows how to build teams to solve issues, focus on the issues that really need to be fixed.
Gwyneth Backpack is responsible for the content of this ad.
Interesting strategy. And strategies aside, these documents also underscore the increasingly blurred lines between political campaigns and their super PACs. I ran one. I know the rules. And legally, they shouldn't coordinate, but these documents unveiled by Axiom Strategies site are a testament to how DeSantis' campaign seems heavily reliant on his super PAC. They finance the research, offer strategy insights, and conduct polling tasks that traditionally fall under a campaign's purview. These leaked documents also hint at who the DeSantis camp views as the main threats. Alongside Ramaswamy, focus is heavily placed on Chris Christie and Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Intriguingly, two separate documents detail Ramaswamy's potential weak spots, covering topics from abortion to masking. And recent polling data shows DeSantis trailing in New Hampshire, with Trump leading at 34%. However, there are more signs of concern for DeSantis, notably a steep drop in net favorability among Republicans from March to August. Another concern? His standing as the second choice for Republican voters dropped from 32% to 17% in the same period. So what does this all boil down to for America? This isn't just about strategies and political infighting. It's about the future of the Republican Party and, by extension, our nation's direction. In this rapidly changing political landscape, the candidate who emerges victorious will wield significant influence in setting the course for the GOP and potentially the country. But there is a deeper message here. Politics isn't just about face value and public speeches. It's about the intricate ballet that happens behind the scenes, a dance of strategy and foresight. Every American should be aware and informed about these dynamics, as it underscores the essence of our republic. For an understanding the mechanics, we better equip ourselves to cast votes that shape our nation's future. It's not just news, it's the future unfolding before our eyes. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged. Angie, it seems that Representative Matt Gaetz is got some more fire. He's taking issue with Judge Tanya Chutkan's handling of the January 6th defendants. What can you tell us?
Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, a steadfast advocate for justice and loyal supporter of former President Trump, is set to introduce a significant resolution to censor U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan. Gaetz' decisive move is a response to what he perceives as Chutkan's clear political bias from her judicial seat. According to Gaetz, Chutkan's approach to sentencing January 6 defendants, juxtaposed with her apparent endorsement of 2020's violent protests, highlights a troubling absence of judicial neutrality and respect for the law. In Gaetz' view, while justice is designed to be blind, the actions of Judge Chutkan are transparent to the American public, eliciting strong disapproval. This comes despite Chutkan's assertions that politics play no role in her rulings. Gaetz remains resolute in his quest for an equitable legal process for President Trump. Dive deeper, tap the link in our bio. And now a story that has captivated the nation. A shocking twist emerges in the tragic murder of a top Microsoft executive. Gary, what's the latest development in this chilling tale?
And now for a special report, a story of a different color, the color of murder. A high-powered software developer meticulously plotted murder in a mother's desperate pursuit for justice. Jared Bradigan, a Microsoft executive, gunned down in front of his innocent toddler in an affluent Jacksonville suburb. His ex-wife now under the intense spotlight. But why? Stay tuned as this tangled web unravels, and you don't want to miss the final thought. So let's end the week by taking a look at the latest in a shocking true crime case that's gripping the nation. The death of Microsoft executive Jared Bradigan wasn't just tragic. It was the start of a mystery that would confound Jacksonville for over 18 months. Melissa Nelson, the determined state attorney for Jacksonville's 4th Judicial District, became the torchbearer for Bradigan's grieving family. The father of 4 was not just an executive, he was a doting dad, tragically shot dead during a seemingly random act. But as the layers peeled back, it became clear that this was not a random act of violence. And the recent arrest of Shanna Gardner Fernandez, Bradigan's ex-wife, has cast a looming shadow over the entire case. Watch.
And we begin with a major break in a case involving a Microsoft exec who was gunned down in front of his 2-year-old daughter. Police have just announced they've arrested and charged Jared Bradigan's ex-wife for his murder more than 18 months into that investigation. It is a surprising twist to a case NewsNation has followed from the very beginning. Already involves 2 other arrests, and now prosecutors say they do plan to seek the death penalty.
And speaking of shadows, unexpected events can befall anyone, like the tragic end of Bradigan. We never see some things coming, and that's why being prepared is so vital. The world around us is ever-changing, be it through nature's fury, political instability, or a personal crisis. No pre-written scripts, no gentle warnings. don't be caught off guard. And right now, My Patriot Supply is generously offering a 25% discount on their 3-month emergency food kit. Secure your family's safety, one kit for every member. Head to preparewithgary.com to avail this limited time offer. And now back to our harrowing tale. Behind Bridegan's murder, whispers began of conspiracies, betrayals, and bitter custody battles. Shanna Gardner Fernandez has been divorced from him since 2015, yet court squabbles over their twins persisted until his untimely death. And in the shadows, 2 more names, Mario Fernandez, her current husband, and Henry Tenon, their former tenant, both already indicted in connection with the heinous crime. The chilling scene of the crime painted a meticulous plot. A lone tire placed strategically in the road lured Bridegan out of his car, and as he stepped out to clear the obstruction, shots rang out, brutally ending his life just inches away from his little daughter, Bexley. A deeper dive into Gardner Fernandez's life reveals more complexities. After the murder, she retreated 2,800 miles to Washington State, distancing the twins from her half-sisters and even her own past. Her relocation, funded under secretive means by her wealthy parents, raised even more than just eyebrows. The tale took another dark twist when Tenon, residing in one of Fernandez's properties, was arrested. Tenon's plea deal, confession, directed the spotlight straight onto Fernandez, revealing a cold-blooded plot to end Bridegan's life. Gardner Fernandez's sinister request to a tattoo parlor staffer asking for someone to shut Bridegan up only thickened the plot. Though she admitted to the statement, she vehemently denied any hand in his assassination. And Bridegan's widow, bound by the love for her children and the memory of her husband, remains resolute. Quote, "We have fought hard for the truth." That's what she passionately declared, underscoring her relentless pursuit for justice. So what does the Bridegan saga reveal? A tragic tale of love, family, and betrayal that resonates beyond Jacksonville's shores. This story matters to every American. It's a grim reminder that even in our personal relationships, trust can be shattered, and the pursuit of justice can be long and challenging. It teaches us to value our families, to be vigilant about the company we keep, and to remember that sometimes the dangers lie closer to home than we can ever imagine. America, let's be watchful. Let's be just. Let's ensure that our families remain safe and united against all odds. In an unexpected turn, a small Midwest town is left without local law enforcement as its entire police force resigns. Angie, what is causing this upheaval? What does it mean for the community's safety?
Goodhue, Minnesota faces a security dilemma as its entire police force, including Police Chief Josh Smith, resigned after a contentious council meeting over pay raises. The town of 1,300 residents is now left without local law enforcement from August 23rd. The sudden departures have sparked concerns among residents over safety. Chief Smith attributed the mass resignations to struggles with recruitment due to low wages, as the town offered $22 an hour below the reported $30 an hour average in smaller departments. Residents and local business owners are urging the Goodhue City Council to address the law compensation and offer incentives for recruiting officers. Immediate action is sought to restore security in the town. Dive deeper, get the whole story by tapping the link in our bio. That's all the news I have for tonight. Now it's time for our Prime Tweets segment, where we get to hear from you, the viewers.
So let's dive right into tonight's segment of Prime Tweets. We're actually going to be renaming this because I think it's better we just call it Your Comments. I mean, you guys leave so many comments on our videos, and they're amazing. I mean, I'll sit here on my phone in bed at night, and I'll just read your comments. I'll heart your comments, respond to some of you guys. And I'm like, I told my producer, Brian, I said, you know, we've been asking these questions. We've been putting it out on our community tab, and we get a lot of responses. You know, it's always generally based on the topic of the show you're watching. But I said, you know, we get so many great comments on these videos we make, the special reports. I'm like, we really need to start highlighting some of your comments on the special reports. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to rename this segment. Maybe we'll call it Your Comments or something like that. But we're going to explore some of those comments from some of the biggest headlines that we've covered this week. And first up is the topic of Mark Meadows' strategy to support President Trump in Georgia. And Tommy said, I want to know why the Republican-held Congress hasn't stopped the funding of this current federal prosecutor that's going after President Trump. It's in their wheelhouse. Well, Tommy, it is a valid question. The power of the purse strings lies with Congress, and it's time they exercise their constitutional authority more robustly. And Benedict says, only arrogant people undermine the potential power of the office of the Trump White House. These Georgia prosecutors are moving in leaps and bounds towards their own ultimate demise. Spot on, Benedict. It seems some individuals are overplaying their hand, not realizing the strong backing that Trump still holds. And switching to the president's latest gaffe, Freeman remarked, Biden is not the president. He is merely a de facto dictator. Well, that is sentiment that's shared by many, Freeman, as Biden's executive actions continue to raise eyebrows. And Neil wisely observed, keep voting for the Democrats and be prepared to reap the fruits of your foolishness. Neil, history has a way of repeating itself, and unfortunately, it's the public that often pays the price for political blunders. And lastly, on Biden's recent self-exposure, Marius stated, people didn't learn from Detroit. Well, America's got Detroitized. Now you get what you live through, what we have been living since the 70s. Keep voting Democrat. Keep believing the media, CNN, NBC. Okay? Don't believe your eyes. A poignant reminder, Marius, of the consequences of misguided leadership and unchecked media narratives. Well, that wraps up the final Prime Tweet segment. Of course, we're going to rename it. Your engagement keeps the discourse alive, and it keeps everything vibrant. And now for our next segment, looking at you. Something happened on the Breakfast Club between Larry Elder and Charlemagne the God. Oh, and it's a doozy. And now for our Looking at You segment, we focus on Larry Elder's astute response during a recent interaction with Charlemagne the God. Elder, a beacon of rational thought, spotlighted a moment many perceived as a stark reminder of a wake-up call when faced with Biden's claim, you ain't really black if you don't know whether you want to vote for me or Trump. Well, Elder responded with grace and reason. Watch.
No. It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like that. But what I did say,
well, you just not talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney. Because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
I think both.
I don't know what you are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say, think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black. Wow.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that way.
Well, I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people, and I want to know what is he going to do for my people, and not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. And this is a guy, Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He's opposed to school choice when he has his own kids in private school, and we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people, and then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, it blew my mind.
Oh, man. Go, Larry Elder. I'm so glad that Charlemagne the God finally got confronted on that moment. And he's like, well, I was just asking what he did for my people. I wasn't insulted. I don't get angry like you don't. I'm not angry at you. Like, come on. Anyway, Larry Elder, he is a man who's deeply connected to his community and has a clear understanding of the diverse political landscape. He questioned how anyone, especially a public figure like Biden, could define blackness by political choices. And Elder rightly pointed out that about 20% of black men voted for Trump in 2020. Does that choice negate their identity? Elder's perspective highlights the essence of American democracy, of our republic. Every voice matters. Every voice counts. And through this lens, Elder reminds us that it's not about party allegiance, but understanding, respect, and policies that champion every American's rights and dignity. So tonight, we're looking at you, Larry Elder, and we love what we see. Ladies and gentlemen, the stories we've covered tonight shed light on the state of our nation and the fragile fabric of our democratic principles. The indictment of former President Trump, the challenges faced by President Biden's administration, and the political machinations within Georgia and the GOP all highlight the political divisions that continue to ripple through our republic. The murder of Jared Bridegan and the ensuing investigation demonstrate that tragedy can strike even in unexpected places, emphasizing the importance of community and justice. Meanwhile, the border crisis continues to test our resources, our compassion, and our ability to manage complexities on the ground. Cyber threats from foreign adversaries remind us of our vulnerabilities and the importance of national security. As politicians spar over the integrity of our judicial system, ordinary Americans are left to wonder if justice is truly blind. We must ask ourselves, what are the core values that hold our republic together? How do we safeguard them in these trying times? America's strength has always been in its unity and its people. As we navigate these challenges, it's essential to remember that our democratic institutions, as imperfect as they may be, are worth fighting for. So that's a wrap on tonight's show. A big thank you to Angie for her insightful news briefs, and to all of you for tuning in and actively participating in our live chat. Your voice and perspective are integral to the fabric of our discourse. Now, in a world where the security of our assets is as unpredictable as the political landscape we've discussed tonight, we're reminded of the fluctuating nature of the U.S. dollar since the 1970s. Just as our nation navigates uncertain terrain, so too should our investments find stable ground. Gold has consistently been that rock-solid foundation. So a heartfelt thank you to our sponsor, Noble Gold Investments. If you're looking to secure a piece of that stability, they're offering one of these, a quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Simply visit noblegoldinvestments.com or give them a call at 877-646-5347. Pick up the phone. Give them a ring, even if you're not investing. Tell them thank you for supporting the Next News Network. It is the gold company that I place my trust in. To all our viewers, continue building a community of informed and like-minded individuals. Engage with us on Twitter. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed tonight's show, spread the word. Remember, the power to make America great again lies within each one of you. I'm Gary Franchi, and remember, my goal isn't to cultivate followers, but to inspire leaders among the people. Good night.